I had a client who that is the way we would interact. She would interact through things she had watched. And through her eyes, I saw, oh my goodness, there is so much gravitas in these episodes. Welcome to Grief Heals, the podcast that explores how grief heals. Join us as we consider how grief invites love within ourselves, our communities, our world, our histories, and how it is that grief heals. I'm Lisa Michelle Zega here with Eric Simpson. So I watched Spirited Away last night based on the conversation we had and you in getting it. So I will say anime, it's a more challenging genre
I
for
wouldn't
me.
call this anime.
Oh, you wouldn't? Okay,
No.
so well, it seems like anime. What would you call it?
Yes, it is technically anime, but it's not anime.
All
These
right.
are like classic animation from the studio, but they don't put out manga books and have anime followings, and it's not the same style really, even.
Well, it didn't seem like that. So I don't travel in those
Right?
circles, generally speaking. So I don't have the right language. So thanks for clarifying. And I'm just going to say cartoon in general.
Just lost the thousands of anime fans that are following this podcast.
So, but here's the thing. What really got me, and I'm going to use the term anime because what got me intrigued about watching anything in the realm of this genre is I had a client who that is the way we would interact. She would interact through things she had watched.
Mm.
And through her eyes, I saw, oh my goodness, there is so much gravitas in these episodes. So I watched a few of the shows she recommended. And
Mhm.
then last night I texted her and I said, hey, have you seen Spirited Away? And like she sent an enthusiastic yes, right?
Right.
And I said, well, I'm about to watch it. And she said, good luck.
I mean, it's a much loved classic
Well,
mainstream movie. I think, I mean, yeah, but yeah, I guess it is an anime sort of, if you want to call that, remember that series about Westworld? If you want to say that's a Western, then you can say Spirited Away is anime.
what was Westworld?
Oh
Am
no,
I
we
just
don't want to open up that. Westworld is about like an amusement park where they have androids that look like real people, and people could pay a bunch of money to go in there and have adventures and kill them and let go of all their lusts and violence and anger. And that was the basic premise. And it was first a movie in the 70s, and then HBO or Showtime, one or the other, did a remake of it.
and the
It's a lot better.
concept was that you can get rid of
Well, no,
these.
that's not, that was my remark. The concept is
Oh,
you can just go in and have sex with people and shoot people and kill people and be in a Western, or go into one of those Western bars and get in a gunfight and,
it
that kind of
just,
stuff, because they're
well,
not real human beings. They're androids or robots. But,
oh,
but the,
oh my gosh, that Eric, that whole concept, I feel it in the base of my belly. I almost feel nauseous because that's what I feel like we've done. We have dehumanized one another so that we can use one another in whatever way is advantageous and without recognizing our interconnectedness and that to destroy you is to destroy me. That's the illusion I believe that we live in, is that we can act in certain ways without consequence to
Mhm.
all. So anyway, but all this to say, Eric, back to Spirited Away, you told me that it was good.
Right.
I really just gave my heart to it. I opened my curiosity to it. I knew that if I allowed, this was going to be a teacher. And actually, that it really gives me a framework for life The way that I watch that movie is the way that I want to live. Open to what's next, curious about what I was going to learn, like just with it and releasing any I went back at one point and I double checked the title to make sure I was watching the movie that you referenced. And at the end of the day, I'm really glad I watched it and I'm even more glad that we're talking about it because I just expect what I walked away with to deepen through talking about it with you.
You know, it starts with a loss.
That stuck out to me right away is when the little girl's in the back seat and the family's moving and they're basically telling her it doesn't matter that we're moving. Moving is an adventure. We're on to something new. And she's like, I miss my old school. And they completely minimize and in fact drive past and they're all, no, look at the new school. It's gonna be so great. And they actually chastise her for feeling the pain of the loss.
Right.
Like that's how it opens, and that's what really struck me.
Well, I wonder to what extent the whole adventure that she has, because if people haven't seen it, her parents have a little adventure, and there's some extent to which this is indicative of her own inner work as she is dealing, maybe even entering into grief and going through the struggles that we might encounter along the way in a instantiated way, where it's all made physical and all external to her, seemingly. And her parents are captured by whatever powers are at work here, and she's on her own. She meets people who are not human. They're surprised that she's there because she's human, and they want to capture her. How old is she? She's like a little girl, maybe 8 years old,
Something
something like
like
that.
that. Yeah. It's so fascinating hearing you muse about her inner work. That's what it was like for me, like as an adult woman, in my late 30s when I got invited essentially on an inner journey. What's happened over the course of nearly 20 years is me going back for my little girl. And right? And doing that alone without my parents, even without my parents' recognition that that might be a need for me to go and revisit my losses
Mhm.
and bring love to those places so that I might inhabit my grown-up woman self. And that was a work that I really wanted. I actually wanted my parents to be able to go on. I wrote my mom a letter trying to entice her on that journey, and she wasn't up for it. It didn't even make sense to her. And this isn't to put her down. I think it's just like there's something of this reflected in that show, that in the movie, that you're awakening me to, that I didn't realize while I was watching it. That is the one thing I'll say, Eric. I knew that there was something deeper than was on the surface, and I wanted to know what was there. And this conversation's helping me recognize, oh my gosh, I can see my own path in that film. And that's so powerful to me.
Yeah, and it's interesting because her parents are, like a lot of us, just interested in, being safe, being happy, and consumption. And their drive to consume, it changes them into the beasts that they are behaving as. And that's why they're unavailable to her, because they are, I mean, they're basically turned into pigs, right? That's sort of their whole mindset. But I can't remember the name of the little girl's character,
I want to say it's Chihiro.
Chihiro,
And then she takes a new name when her name is stolen from her, and
right?
that becomes Sen.
And she's all about relationships. She's missing her friends, she's missing her community, and then she enters into this new community in which she is not welcome. But she works through sort of a relational thing with beings who are around her. And what's interesting about that, though, is that the community is important. The spirit of the land itself is important to her journey, but it's something that she has to do on her own. And I think that that's true of us as well. I mean, we are entrenched in community, and that is vital to our experience and existence. But the things that we have to do are things that we do ourselves. Other people can't transform us for us.
You know, it's one of the things that's occurring to me as you say this is it's often something we did not choose
Mhm.
that's inviting us to that journey. She doesn't choose to move. She
Right.
doesn't choose to leave her friends. She doesn't choose a new home. None of that is her choice. She enters loss, and that opens her to this whole adventure that is like a harrowing adventure, right? Like it's wrought with challenges. In many ways, she has to do it alone, but here's what's interesting. Right away, early on, she's met with another character who offers help in some fashion, right? And that
Yes.
whole community piece unfolds, I think, with that, with
Not only
his
that, but
extension.
he tells her soon after meeting her that he's known her. She says, "How do you know my name?" And he says, "I've known you all your life."
I've known you since you were very young,
Yeah,
or
something like
something
that.
like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, when we first started Grief Heals, one of the avenues we took was ancestral grief. That brings up our connection to the land and our loss of that, like the interconnection of all beings, all things. It's more than just her relationship with other people,
Right,
right?
right.
That ends up metabolizing, integrating.
If nobody's seen this, they might not have any idea what we're talking about because
Well,
this little
that's
girl,
true.
she wanders into what seems to be an amusement park, and her parents are go into this part of the amusement park where they find a buffet just laid out before them, and they say, "Oh, well, there's no one around. Well, we'll pay later," or something. They just start eating, and they just seem to be consumed by their own greed or hunger or their desire
Their
to
desires. Yeah.
yeah, their desires, and they turn into pigs. And then she sort of wanders in away into the amusement park, or it's not really an amusement park. It becomes like a ship, or I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's very surreal and mysterious. And there are these entities that are floating around that are not human. And that's when she meets the boy that we're talking about, who's over,
Haku, I think his name was.
right? And she ends up having to go and work in the basement of this place for a friendly person who at first ignores her, but the more that she presses and says she's told that she needs to find a job in order to survive, which I mean, who would ever be told that? And
It made me think of that freedom is work quote that you said and you asked me. That immediately came to mind from a different time we were talking.
exactly. So, I mean, that's sort of the whole context in which we're of the movie. Then she has to escape or try to rescue her parents and get back to home. And she confronts like a couple of witches, and I mean, there's all sorts of interplay that happens here.
From my perspective, oh my goodness, I think that's part of what got in the way, Eric. Like I kept needing to suspend my preconceived notions of how grief was playing out and just let the movie have its way with me, as it were.
Mhm.
What's so fascinating to me is the aspect of the movie that really stood out to me is the power of love. Then coming and having this conversation with you, like it's naturally coming together for me of how her journey that she needed to take alone, and yet in that going alone, like without her parents, community surrounded her. She is doing, like, she's tending to her inner being, and in so doing is healing not only herself, her parents, and not just the other beings around her, but the whole cosmos as represented in that show. So I'm kind of blown away that
Mhm.
I'm enjoying the movie now more,
Yeah.
talking about it and realizing, oh my gosh, this is really powerful. But it's showing me my need for community. Like, in other words, going it alone, did I did the movie have an impression on me? It did. Were there things I took away that genuinely fed me, right? Like nourished me, washed me with love. Yes. And then coming back together with you, and you just said a few things that opened a whole new world to me. So, Eric, let me ask you this. The movie represented, just in some kind of way, that grief heals. How do you see that being so?
Well, I think that when we say grief heals, we want to be careful of reifying grief as a thing, because grief is actually a set of associations and behaviors and feelings and thoughts that constructed in such a way where they can be either destructive or transformative.
Would you say the same of love?
Yes. Yeah. So because love isn't, I think love is not just a thing that stands out there alone. She's not concentrated on her. She seemingly forgets about the fact that she's moving to a new
Hmm.
place, but she is confronting all of these obstacles to owning what she already has, which is loving parents and a family and a school. And she just wants to get back to that. And she's been displaced for a moment by grief, those things that she sees as obstacles, which are ultimately transformed through love to present themselves in her favor. Like she meets a couple of witches who are twin sisters who seem to be against her. And to be honest, I don't remember all of the complications of the plot because it's been a while since I've seen it. But I know that the witches are changed, or they seem to be changed in their orientation towards her as she moves through what seems to be a process of escaping from the trap that she's in and rescuing her parents and getting back to all the riches that are in her life. So, in that sense, I would see it as an interior journey in some ways of dealing with loss. In that sense, it is about grief and about healing.
I love actually what you said. It's got me thinking about how what she did not choose opens her to a journey that she did not choose. And she's motivated not by her loss. She's actually motivated by to get her parents back. To like now there's something immediate that she's desiring.
Mm.
And I'm not trying to pull together parallels. I don't have that all in my mind. I'm just recognizing that there's some way that she's wanting to get back. This is fascinating to me. I'm just now recognizing a lot of people that I work with, when they come to me, they're not seeking to create some newness in life. That is really, they literally use the phrase, I just want to get back. I just want to get back to being me. I just want to get back to normal is another phrase to use. And what opens is something they never could have imagined. Like, I think just yesterday, it was yesterday, I met with someone and he said that grief returned him to the arms of himself
Right.
and that he connected with himself in a way that he had not yet known in terms of kindness and compassion, and how that spilled over into the way he is with the world.
Yeah, and there's a sense in which she, in this movie, the character who stands in for us is no longer obsessed with the things that she's losing because she's struggling to save what she already has in a sense, but she discovers new relationships to herself and to like the spirit of the river and the environment in which she lives. And as you say, what Thich Nhat Hanh calls interbeing and her own place as the goddess of the cosmos. That last part, I was just not serious.
No, because there's something, I'll just speak for myself. There's something that has happened in me in my own journey of recognizing how vital I am as life force, and how connected I am to the divine, and how we are all like, just, you used the phrase once in one of our conversations, God in drag.
Mhm.
And I say yes to that. And that's that's the image, goddess of the cosmos, raised in me. So I'm like, yeah.
She returns to her family and into a new situation that she's able to accept because she's gone through the process of grieving the loss of what had been before. And we know that, everything that we love, we will lose. But that doesn't mean we won't have new things or new people and new relationships and new transforming love for ourselves and nature and the cosmos. And in that sense, she is the goddess of her cosmos. She is connected
Right?
to the divine. She's connected to nature. She's connected with her parents, and she's open to going to a new school now. So we all need to be captured by witches and
Well, and in some ways we are.
right, yeah. And sometimes and the thing is that she doesn't defeat the witches by humiliating them or beating them down or killing them like we would in most American movies, or putting them in prison or something. I don't know what would happen in a Disney movie because I really don't watch Disney movies, but it's different in that sense because she enters into a relationship with these enemies and loves them, and there's a transformation that happens.
So this is so personal to me because I projected so many enemies in my outward world, and I was very sarcastic tongue, just, and like, I have humiliated and hurt many people with this tongue of mine. What I've recognized, and at other times with these fists of mine, I mean, I have been a violent, rageful human. In my own internal journey, what I recognized, that the enemies that I put out there all were in me. And it was only by welcoming the enemies inside me and giving them love and giving them attention and giving them a voice in my own life have I integrated more into my true self, which has transformed how I am with other people, which is why, like, to me, war, retaliation, doing harm for quote unquote good sake, like, it's a farce. I mean, this is literally why I'm like, hey, as we heal ourselves, we heal each other, we heal our world. I'm up for that. And I think that this movie, though it was a challenge for me to watch, is a great teacher, and something now, having had this conversation, I think I'll watch again.
Also, what you brought up for me is a dream that I had once. Have you ever had one of those dreams where you suddenly become aware that you're dreaming, where
Yeah.
you're in a dream and you realize it's a lucid
Yeah.
dream? So that's when you sort of wake up in your dream and realize that you're dreaming. And I remember one time I had a dream that there were probably like 15 official looking people, like mostly men. And I believe they were wearing suits, but they were all coming after me. They were accusing me. I don't remember the details of what was going on, but they were all surrounding me like they were going to, arrest me. I was in trouble. I was in danger. And rightfully so. I was getting what was coming to me, I think. And all of these people were surrounding me, coming towards me. And I woke up and I suddenly felt peaceful. And I said, you guys can't do anything to me because you are me. And they all were silent and sort of just fell away. And actually, when I woke up, it reminded me of when Jesus was confronted in the garden and he just moved towards the soldiers and they all fell down. I had this sense of power, of empowerment that, all of these obstacles that were assaulting me in my dream, you are me. You're not going to hurt me. And that's sort of part of what happens, I think, in that movie and with the way that we overcome obstacles in our life. We just need to wake up. You've been listening to Grief Heals with Lisa Michelle Zega. The podcast is produced by me, Eric Simpson, in association with Jump Up and Down Productions. Music by Candelian, Drunken Nights to Sunday Mornings, and Stefan Carlin, A Calming Ocean, A Common Notion. If you would like more information about the work Lisa does, point your browsers to legityou.com. That's LEGITYOU. Lisa can also be reached at lisamichelle@legityou.com. This has been a Jump Up and Down production. This has been a Jump Up and Down production.